Students, welcome back. Today we'll go ahead with the second part of lesson number 9 of history, the Maratha War of Independence, right? Now, in the first part, we learnt about Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj, how his administration was, how the Adil Shah and Qutub Shahi came to an end, how Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj became a headache for Aurangzeb, Emperor Aurangzeb, and ultimately we learnt how Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj was killed brutally by Emperor Aurangzeb. Now we'll go ahead with the lesson, the second part of the lesson. In this, over here we learn about Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj. Okay, so Rajaram Maharaj was the second son of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, and he was born on 24th February 1670 at on Raigad. After the death of Sambhaji Maharaj, he became the next Chhatrapati. Now, when he became the Chhatrapati, what did Aurangzeb think that he had a dream of winning the Maratha kingdom? Yes, so that dream would be realized. So for that very same reason, he sent Zulfikar to put Raigad under siege. And at that time, Rajaram Maharaj and his wife Maharani Tarabai and Sambhaji Maharaj's wife Maharani Yasubai and his son Shahu Maharaj were on Raigad. Now, it was very risky for all the members of the royal fort to stay on one place. Okay, so what did Aurangzeb do? He sent Zulfikar Khan, one of his Sardar, to put the fort of Raigad under siege. Okay, and once the fort was put under siege, so all the royal people belonging to the royal family, they would be got would be entrapped in on the fort itself. So it was Maharani Tarabai, Rajaram Maharaj, his with his wife, his son Sambhaji, and Maharaj and Sambhaji Maharaj's wife Maharani Yasubai and their son Shahu. So it was very risky for all the royal members to stay at the one place. So what Maharani Yasubai did, she brought about a solution. She tackled this unprecedented calamity very bravely. Yes, this danger very bravely. She confronted it. Now, how did she resolve? Resolving that she would not surrender to the Mughals under any condition. She took many important political decisions on Raigad. It was decided that Rajaram Maharaj should escape from Raigad and, if necessary, go to a far off place like Jinji. Now, it was also decided that the fight to defend Raigad would continue under the leadership of Maharani Yasubai. Maharani Yasubai chose to make Rajaram Maharaj and not her own son the Chhatrapati. Her decision is a shining example of her love for Swaraj and her extreme selflessness. She kept the Maratha Chhatrapati secure without regard for her own life or that of her son. Okay, so when Zulfikar Khan laid a siege to the fort of Raigad, Rajaram Maharaj, his wife Maharani Tarabai, Sambhaji Maharaj's wife Maharani Yesubai, and her son Prince Shahu were there on the fort. So at that time, Maharani Yesubai took a bold decision. She decided that she would not surrender to the Mughal army under any conditions, and then it was decided that Rajaram Maharaj would escape from Raigad because it was very much risky to be all these people belonging to the royal family being on the fort. So it was decided that Rajaram Maharaj would go to a far off place like Jinji, and then she would continue the fight against the Mughals from the fort of Raigad under the leadership of Maharani Yasubai. And also at the same time, Maharani Yasubai decided to make Rajaram Maharaj the next Chhatrapati and not her own son. Yes, because when before Rajaram Maharaj, it was Chhatrapati Shambhaji Maharaj who was the Chhatrapati. Yes, so after his death, it would have been Shambhaji Maharaj's son who would be the next Chhatrapati. But Maharani Yasubai took the decision of making Rajaram Maharaj the next Chhatrapati, and she set an example, a very good example, a very shining example that she had a lot of love for Swaraj and she was extremely selfless. Yes, without any benefit, she took this decision, and she also kept the Maratha Chhatrapati secure without regard, without considering her own life or her own son's life. She kept the Chhatrapati, the Maratha Chhatrapati, secure by sending him from Raigad to a far off place like Jinji. Okay. Now Rajaram Maharaj leaves for Jinji. So it was on 5th April 1689 Rajaram Maharaj escaped from the besieged Raigad with a few of his associates. So when Maharani Yasubai took this decision that Rajaram Maharaj escaped from the fort of Raigad, so on 5th April 1689 Rajaram Maharaj with some of his associates, some of his Sardars, he left the fort of Raigad and went decided to go to Jinji. Now the fort of Jinji was very invincible, means it could not be won over. So the Mughals at that time found it very difficult to capture the fort of Jinji. Okay, and when Rajaram Maharaj left the fort of Raigad, the people who accompanied him, yes, he took his faithful Sardars like Pralhad Niraji, Khando Ballal, Rupaji Bhosle, and all they managed to reach Jinji. Okay, now Jinji in such times proved to be a lot of help to Rajaram Maharaj because he was safe and secure away from the Mughal army. The movements of the Marathas. Yes, now what did the Marathas do? Now it was very difficult to defend the Raigad fort under the might of the Mughals because the Mughals had become powerful after, you know, putting an end to the Adil Shahi and the Qutub Shahi kingdom. So in 1689, the Mughals captured Raigad and arrested Maharani Yasubai and Shahu. So while going to Jinji, Rajaram Maharaj had assigned the duty to fight against the Mughals to Ramchandra Pant Amatya, Shankarji Narayan Sachiv, Santaji Ghorpade, and Dhanaji Jadhav. Okay, so it obviously fighting such a big army of the Mughals, it would not be possible for the Marathas to withstand it. And ultimately, in November 1689, the fort of Raigad was captured, and Rajaram Maharaj, who had gone away from there, so but Maharani Yasubai and her son Shahu were arrested. And while before leaving, Rajaram Maharaj had given the responsibility to fight against the Mughals to some of his followers Ramchandra Pant Amatya, Shankarji Narayan Sachiv, Santaji Ghorpade, and Dhanaji Jadhav. Now, from the Maratha point of view, the situation was very critical. Aurangzeb had enticed many Maratha Sardars to his side by giving them watans and jagirs. Rajaram Maharaj also used the same tactics to thwart the Mughal plans. It was promised that if the Maratha Sardar captured Mughal army territory, it would be given to him as a jagir. Okay. Now, after this, at that time, when Aurangzeb, what he did, he enticed, he bribed. Yes, he told some Maratha Sardar that if they would be granted with watans and jagirs if they sided with the Mughals. So many Maratha Sardars, for their greed, uh, you know, they went over to the side of the Aurangzeb of the Mughal, and they cheated the Marathas. But see, what Rajaram Maharaj did, he also followed the same tactic. Yes, to thwart the Mughal plan. So he also promised the Maratha Sardars that if they captured any Mughal territory, that would be given to that particular Sardar as a Jagir. Now, this practice, which was stopped by earlier by Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, yes, the feudalism, which was very much prevalent before the times of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, it was started again by Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj under these circumstances. So he started this practice of granting land to his Sardars when the Mughals started it first. Yes, just in reply to that, he also promised the Maratha Sardars that they would be granted the land or the territory of they had captured from the Mughals. Okay. Now, due to this promise, many capable Maratha Sardars came forward. Yes, they thought that we are going to get Watans and Jagir, so they came forward. They started invading Mughal territory with vigor and defeated Mughal generals. Santaji and Dhanaji were at the forefront in these actions. Against the surprise attacks and guerrilla tactics, the enormous amount of war material and heavy artillery of the Mughals were of little use. The Mughal forces were at their wits' end. On one occasion, Santaji Ghorpade and Vittoji Chavan even cut and carried away the golden pinnacle of the emperor's own tent in a surprise attack. So once Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj announced that they would be granted the Vatans and Jagir, so many Maratha Sardars came in the forefront, they came forward and they defeated the captured Mughal territory with lot of courage and defeated the Mughal generals. Basically, in the forefront was Santaji and Dhanaji. Okay, now they were very much good in this guerrilla surprise attacks and guerrilla tactics, and the enormous amount of war material and heavy artillery of the Mughals were of little use. So whatever war material the Mughals had, it was of no use or very little use under the surprise attacks of Santaji and Dhanaji, because they attacked so sneaking in such a sneaky way that even the Mughals didn't come to know. So at that time, the Mughals were at their wits' end. They could not think of a solution for that. One such occasion was that Santaji Ghorpade and Vittoji Chavan, what they did, they cut off the pinnacle, yes, of the emperor's tent, and in one surprise attack. So going to the emperor's tent, near the emperor's tent, taking the pinnacle, the top part of the tent, and so in a surprise attack without the enemy knowing it. So that could be seen that how sneaky they were in their attack, that the enemies also didn't come to know about it. Let's go ahead. Okay, what's there here? Siege of Jinji. Yes, we already learned in the beginning of today's session that when Rajaram Maharaj left from Raigad, he had come to Jinji, and over there it was an invincible fort. Okay, and even the Mughals could not capture it. Now, once Raigad was captured, the emperor sent Zulfikar Khan to the south on the campaign of Jinji. He laid siege to the fort of Jinji. The Marathas defended the fort bravely for nearly 8 years. The Mughal forces engaged in the siege were fiercely attacked from outside by Santaji and Dhanaji. Rajaram Maharaj escaped through the siege and returned to Maharashtra. Later, Zulfikar Khan captured the fort of Jinji. Okay, so when Rajaram Maharaj had left from Raigad, he had come to Jinji. So this fort of Jinji was defended by the Marathas for nearly 8 years. Okay, so after capturing Raigad, Emperor had sent Zulfikar Khan to capture Jinji as well. He laid a siege to the fort of Jinji, but the Marathas proved themselves by defending the fort bravely for nearly 8 years. So, and also these the Mughal forces who were attacking from outside, they were attacked by Santaji and Dhanaji from the Maratha side from outside. And in that, Rajaram Maharaj escaped from the siege and returned to Maharashtra. Okay, and then Zulfikar Khan captured the fort of Jinji, but when he captured, Rajaram Maharaj had already come back to Maharashtra. Okay, the return of Rajaram Maharaj to Maharashtra gave a boost to the Maratha activity. The Marathas attacked the Mughal territories of Khandesh, Farhad, and Baglan. Rajaram Maharaj inspired hundreds of brave Maratha warriors like Santaji and Dhanaji with his understanding, nature, and statesmanship. He motivated them to protect Swaraj and thus performed a very valuable task. But even as all this was taking place, Rajaram Maharaj died on 2nd March 1700 on Siaghad after the short period of illness. Okay, after laying a siege to the after escaping from Jinji, Rajaram Maharaj returned to Maharashtra, and once he returned to Maharashtra, the confidence level was boosted. The confidence levels of the Maratha activity or the Maratha Sardars was boosted, and many Mughal territories were attacked and taken into their dominance, like Khandesh, Varad, and Baglam, and many Maratha warriors were influenced, inspired by Rajaram Maharaj's understanding nature and statesmanship, and he also motivated them to protect Swaraj and performed a very valuable task. While doing so, unfortunately, Rajaram Maharaj died on 2nd March 1700 after a short period of illness. He was born on Raigad and he breathed his last on the fort of Siaghad. Next, Rajaram Maharaj was thoughtful and kind hearted. He brought together all the capable people in the Maratha Empire. He created a new enthusiasm amongst them. After the death of Sambhaji Maharaj, he fought against Aurangzeb for 11 years with great courage and tenacity. Rajaram Maharaj's greatest achievement is that he protected Swaraj in those extremely difficult times. While describing Rajaram Maharaj, noted historian Riyasatkar G.S. Sardesai has used the adjective sthir buddhi, level headed. He cannot be described in better words than these. So Rajaram Maharaj, who had motivated, boosted the confidence of the Maratha Sardars, was very capable, and he had united them. And even after the death of Sambhaji Maharaj, he had to fight with Aurangzeb with the Mughals for almost 11 years. So he fought with great courage and tenacity, and he protected Swaraj. And his achievement was that greatest achievement, that in such critical condition also, with the Mughals attacking, yes, the siege of Jinji, which was almost there for defended for nearly 8 years. Okay, so in these difficult times, he defended Swaraj, protected Swaraj from the Mughals, and did not allow the Mughals to capture Swaraj. So, in his honor, Riyasatkar, a noted historian, G.S. Sardar has called him Sthir Buddhi, means level headed, a person who thinks in a rational way, in a logical way, and there would not be a better words more than that to describe him. Maharani Tarabai. After the death of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj, we all know Maharani Tarabai, the wife of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj. Yes, after his death, Aurangzeb thought that he would had won the war against the Marathas because Shambhaji Maharaj had died, Rajaram Maharaj had died, so there was nobody who would confront him. But he was wrong. But it was not so. Aurangzeb was winning battle after battle, but he could not win the war. Maharani Tarabai, the capable wife of Rajaram Maharaj, came forward to lead the Swaraj movement in the extremely unfavorable circumstances. In those times, women were given a secondary status. Yes, so they were not considered powerful at all. So that was the thinking of Aurangzeb as well, whereby he thought that it would be very easy to defeat the Marathas now and take control over the Maratha Empire, but he could not because it was the leadership which Maharani Tarabai, the capable wife of Rajaram Maharaj, when she came forward and took the Swaraj movement, led the Swaraj movement in such extremely unfavorable circumstances, unfavorable conditions. Contemporary Mughal historian Kafi Khan describes Maharani Tarabai as an intelligent and knowledgeable woman. Her management of the army and administration had won renown even during the rule of her husband. After the death of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj, Maharani Tarabai continued the Swaraj struggle bravely with the help of her Sardars. Aurangzeb captured Satara and Panhala from the Maratha territory, but at the same time, the Marathas dashed up to the Mughal areas of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. Tarabai expanded the war areas further. Sardars like Krishnaji Sawant, Khanderao Dabhade, Dhanaji Jadhav, and Nebaji Shinde opened battles against Mughals on various fronts outside Maharashtra, and this was a sign of change in the outcome of the war. So, even the contemporary Mughal historian Kafi Khan describes Maharani Tarabai as an intelligent and knowledgeable woman. Her management skill of the army and as well as the administration was well known even during the time of when her husband ruled. Yes, even when Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj was the ruler, even before his death, her knowledge, her management skills was well known. And later on, it was became more renowned after his death when she took the lead. So even after his death, she continued the struggle against the Marathas with the help of her trusted Sardars. So when Aurangzeb captured Satara and Panhala, at the same time, Satara and Panhala were the Mughal Maratha territories. At the same time, the Marathas dashed up into the Mughal areas of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat and captured the territories. So many Sardars had opened fight against the Mughals on various fronts on various occasions, and this when they started attacking the Marathas started attacking the Mughals. This was a sign of change in the outcome of the war. Sign of change in the outcome of the war means earlier it was seen that the Mughals would be defeated, but this attack of the Marathas on the Mughal territories would show a change in the outcome in the result of the war. Next, Maharani Tarabai fought for 7 years. She kept the Maratha kingdom strong. She took charge of the administration single handedly and encouraged the Sardars to participate in the mission of Swaraj. Maratha Sardars fought against the Mughals up to Siranjay, Mandsaur, and Malwa. Kafi Khan has recorded that Rajaram's Maharaj's wife Tarabai achieved great things and displayed the qualities of leadership of the army and management of campaigns. It added force to the Maratha campaign. So she also, from her side, she fought with the against the Mughals for 7 years. She kept the Maratha kingdom strong single handedly, being a woman at that time, and single handedly she encouraged, she and administered Swaraj. She encouraged Maratha Sardars to participate in the mission of protecting Swaraj. Maratha Sardars went up to Malwa and Mandsaur, all up to them. Kafi Khan, the historian, has called her that she has achieved great things and displayed qualities of being a great leader of the army and management campaigns. And with this qualities of her, it added force to the Maratha campaigns. Okay, you can see the box over here. While describing Tarabai's great achievements, poet Dev Datta, who was the son of Paramanand, the author of Shiv Bharat, says, Tarabai Ramanani Bhadrakali Kopali दिल्ली झाली दीनविना दिल्लीशाचे गेले पाणी. रामराणी भद्रकाली रणरंगी क्रुद्ध झाली. प्रयत्नांची वेळ आली मुघळ हो सांभाळा. So these words are describing the valor, the strength, the skills of Maharani Tarabai. Yes, so we are Tarabai Ramrani, Bhadrakali Kopali, Dilli Zali Deenwani, Dilli Shache Gele Pani. Dilli Shache Gele Pani is talking about the emperor over there. Yes, so he was also at his wits' end. And once she took the lead, she showed her anger, she showed her valor that even the Mughals could not handle it, could not gain control over the Marathas when Tarabai was taking the lead. So, thus Maharani Tarabai kept up the legacy of valor inherited from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Due to the forceful campaigns of the Marathas, Aurangzeb was frustrated because he was not capable and unable to take control over the Maratha Empire. So, the Mughal Maratha fight that had continued for 25 years. Yes, the Mughal Maratha fight had continued for 25 years. Still, the Mughals could not defeat the Marathas. In these circumstances, Aurangzeb died in 1707 CE at Ahmednagar, and the Maratha War of Independence came to an end with his death. Okay, so over there, the Maratha War of after the death of Aurangzeb, the Maratha War of Independence against the Mughals came to an end because after his death, there was nobody as powerful or as capable of him like Aurangzeb who could take control over the Mughal Empire and defeat his enemies. His sons fought against him themselves to become the next emperor, which led to the downfall of the Mughal Empire. Okay, so this Maratha War for Independence was fight between the Mughal emperor's greed to expand his empire and the spirit of independence of the Marathas. So, what was the which against whom was this Maratha War of Independence? It was the greed, the emperor's greed to expand his empire, and on the Maratha side, it was the spirit of independence, the Swaraj, the self rule which they wanted. They wanted to be not dependent on others. Yes, they wanted freedom. The Marathas emerged victorious in it. After the death of Aurangzeb, they led others in filling the vacuum in the political arena. They controlled the throne of Delhi, ran the affairs of almost all parts of Hindustan, and protected it. Therefore, the 18th century is known as the century of the Marathas. In the next chapters, we will see the achievement of Marathas in that century. So, after the death of Aurangzeb, as I told you earlier also, that there was no as capable to take control over the Mughal Empire, and even the Marathas took control over the throne of Delhi, started having politics in the throne of Delhi, yes, with in the Mughal Empire as well, and almost they controlled the throne of Delhi, ran almost all parts affairs of almost all parts of Hindustan, and protected. So this 18th century, this period of 18th century is known as the century of the Marathas because Marathas had taken control almost the full part of India, the full country of India, and had helped, expanded the Maratha Empire. These all we learn in our next lesson, the chapters coming after this. So, this is the end of lesson number 9, the Maratha War of Independence. Yes, the Maratha War of Independence was the fight between the Mughals and the Marathas, which lasted for 25 years, and it came to an end with the death of Emperor Aurangzeb. Okay, I hope this is clear, children. We'll meet again with the next lesson. Till then, thank you, children. Sai Ram.